Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Brotherly Love in the District. Tristan here, along with Jacob. And Jacob, you want to tell them what we're going to get into?
Yeah, so this week we have a little bit of a slow episode in football. We're just going to talk about free agency and what we think or what we'd like to see our teams pick up. And also the combine workouts have started as of the recording of this video. Going into hockey, the Caps are on a very dangerous downfall that I do not think they can recover from. And in baseball news, the first week of games has already been canceled as the Players Association and the owners have not been able to reach new bargaining agreements. So let's get right into it.
Yeah. So, but like I said before in our I said I'd trivia question. So there are 5 quarterbacks to throw for 1,000 passing yards. Don't look it up. I see you typing. Don't look it up.
I'm looking up something else.
Okay, don't look it up. Can you name the 5 quarterbacks who have thrown for 1,000 yards in the Super Bowl? Like total, like not obviously not in a single game, but like total. So like over a couple of games.
Brady's obviously one of them.
Brady obviously won.
Fran Tarkenton? Because
No.
I know he went to 4.
No, but I mean, if you remember, he was in a run-heavy team. Like that's early.
Yeah, that is true. But
that so you kind of have to take that into account.
I'm
too.
thinking the quarterback for the Bills in the 90s.
Jim Kelly, no. Went to 4 straight Super Bowls and he didn't throw for 1,000 yards. Okay, but I want to see he got injured in one of them.
John Elway. I know he went to
John Elway did.
He lost a lot of those as well.
He went to 5. He lost 3 of them.
Yeah, let me think. I'm trying to think of quarterbacks who went to a lot. This is probably not one, but Bradshaw.
That's another good guess, but no. I thought for sure Bradshaw would be up there.
I thought, it was a different league back then. That was like the transition from extremely run heavy, and then the whole Mel Blount rules came in.
Yeah, and I mean, he went to 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah, don't tell me. I'm just trying to think of teams who have won. Oh, Joe Montana. Duh.
Joe Montana went. Yeah, another one. So that's 3. I'd say 4 of them make sense. The last one is really hard, and I don't know. Yeah, this next one makes sense, but it could take a second for you to get to it. Aikman, I thought for sure, but no, he did not.
Well, they didn't go to a lot.
They went to at least 3.
Yeah, not Steve Young.
Steve Young would have been. Yeah, he only went to 3. That's 3.
Well, he went to 2 as a backup, 1 as an actual player, as a starter once Montana left.
Oh, I was talking about Aikman. So
this is probably wrong, but Peyton
Manning did throw.
Okay, in the last one.
I mean, dude, Peyton Manning makes sense. He's like, he threw for 5.
He only went to 3 though, and one of those he laid an egg.
Yeah, so that's
no, he went to 4 actually. I forgot about the Saints one.
I was gonna say he went to 2 with the Colts.
He went to 4. The last one. I feel like this is gonna be really
hard. Okay, he's a Hall of Famer and he went to 3, I believe. I'll double check on that. But I believe he went to 3, and those are the hints that I'll give you right now.
Not far.
Yeah, he went to 3 total Super Bowls, and he is a Hall of Famer.
Wait a minute. Who's the quarterback for the Lombardi Packers?
Bart Starr? No.
Yeah, it's not Bart Starr.
No.
Staubach.
Nope.
No, they won 2, I think.
Think like late 90s, early 2000s.
90.
Like,
no way it's Kurt Warner.
Yeah, it is.
It's Kurt Warner?
Kurt Warner threw for that. It surprised me too. Like I didn't.
Wow, he went. I guess he did go to 3, but wow, I did not expect that. That took me a while.
Yeah, that's. I just asked my dad the same question. I saw it on a TikTok, and that when I was going through it, I was like, wow, that is really the hardest, one of the harder trivia questions. Because I didn't think Kurt Warner would throw for 1,000. I thought for sure Troy Aikman would be up there. And honestly, when I was watching the video, so they like while I was watching the video, they were like they were going through them real quick. So he got Joe Montana real quick, so I didn't even have time to think about Joe Montana, but I couldn't get Elway because I thought Elway only went to 2 or 3. I didn't realize that he went to 5.
He lost a lot. There was one he went to
5 total.
Washington went in 87 and they got whooped. Yeah, he lost
3.
quite a bit. No, they lost to the Niners, I believe. I think
you're right too. I think they lost one to the Niners. But yeah, just a little fun way to start off that one. But
I have a quick question for you. What quarterback once held the record for most passing yards in a season for a Eagles and a Washington quarterback? I have asked you this question before.
Oh yeah, it was no. You haven't. I can't think of his name.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I know. I want to say, but I don't think he was an Eagle. But that's the only name that's coming to my mind right now.
Who?
Sonny Jurgensen.
It is Sonny Jurgensen.
Oh, okay. That was the only name that was coming to my head. But
in 1961, he threw for 3,700 yards for the Philadelphia Eagles, and in 1967 for Washington, he threw for 3,700 yards. So that's a little bit trivia there. And you know who they traded him for? I do not expect you to know this, but the Eagles traded.
You told me this. Who?
Yeah, this guy was a horrible quarterback.
Oh, then yeah, I'm not gonna remember.
His name was Norm Snead, and I'm gonna give you a little.
Yes,
stat.
I remember you telling me that now.
The year after they traded for him, he was coming off a 27 interception season.
Wow.
If that isn't an Eagles move, I don't know what is.
Says the Redskins fan or the Commanders fan, bud.
Oh, we don't make stupid trades. We make stupid free agent signings, Tristan. Get it right. Albert Hainsworth, Adam Archuleta, Deion Sanders, Bruce Smith, Josh Norman.
Speaking of, who are you hoping for the Commanders to get in free agency? So there's obviously some big names like Devonte Adams, Chris Godwin. Do you think Chris Godwin's going to move, or do you think he's going to stay in Tampa?
I could see him moving for some reason. I think he's actually going to go to the Eagles. I don't know why. I just feel like
I would love for him to come to the Eagles.
I think the two biggest,
he'd be a good fit. I think
the two biggest threats of going to you. Sorry, I hate these stupid websites that have
pop-up ads
that automatically play. And I think Allen Robinson could be a serious threat to go to the Eagles, and that's another kind of wide receiver you'd need.
Yeah, so the thing about I'd love Chris Godwin to come here because Chris Godwin in his in this past season he had 98 catches for 1,100 yards before tearing his ACL in week 15, and I feel like he's good because he can play everywhere on the field. He can play the slot. He can play either outside either X or Z, which is kind of like a really technical wide receiver term. So he can play any position, any wide receiver position you need him to. So he'd be a good fit because they need like that decent receiver opposite of Devonte Smith. So I would really like to see him come here. I don't know if that'll happen now. But yeah, that'd be huge. But I think Chris Godwin, I think he's going to stay in Tampa.
I honestly don't know because with
this is a second contract.
The quarterback position isn't a guarantee anymore. So I don't know if that would be as much of a guarantee of him staying in.
I'll say this right now. If Aaron Rodgers isn't a Packer, he's going to Tampa. If Tom Brady stays retired, he's going to Tampa.
I think Brady's staying retired. I think it's Tampa or the Broncos. I think those two are the most realistic places for him to go.
But yeah, and then Devonte Adams, I think he's going to stay in Green Bay.
I think it depends on what Rodgers does, because if Rodgers doesn't, Devonte Adams is probably going to leave. But I don't know the teams who have the salary cap to take him on.
Because he wants a lot of money. He wants like $23 million a year.
And I'm not sure I'd give it to him mainly for the fact he's playing with Aaron Rodgers the last few years. And
here's the thing. You're also going to be looking at like the market and what other receivers are getting paid. Amari Cooper is making 20 mil a year.
Well, that one was that's a little.
It's an overpay, but still, like if you look at that and you say that's, if anything, that's going to inflate his price a little bit, because if he looks and he's like, look, Amari Cooper was averaging like six targets a game last season and he's making 20 mil. I average like 12 receptions a game. I should be getting 40 mil. Obviously that's not realistic, but like he deserves, I think he's right now, I would say he's the best receiver in the league. And
yeah, I'd say that too. And also,
I'd say better than Cooper Kupp just because of he's
more versatile than Cooper Kupp,
yes,
but doesn't play in a better system. But yeah, one thing, like Kenny Golladay, he's on 4 years, 72 million, and he's nowhere near the level of Devonte Adams. So
exactly,
you're right. The market is really starting to.
It's really inflated
up
right now. So yeah. I think he could definitely be making a lot of money.
I don't know who's going to be willing to pay him that.
I think three good fits. The thing is though, like the last time they made a big splash at wide receiver in free agency was Alshon Jeffrey, who they signed to a 1-year deal, who they did end up extending because he played well. But that was the last time they made a big splash at wide receiver. I also heard that the Panthers want Stefan Gilmore back.
I did hear that.
I just saw that.
Yeah, they're probably going to try and re-sign him, and I think he'll re-sign there.
Yeah, I think he would like to stay. Oh, this is a short list. But yeah, I would really like to see Allen Robinson there, or Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, or Mike Williams, because Mike Williams is a true, like, I think Mike Williams is the best case scenario to have across from Devonte Smith, because he's a shot guy. He can get down the field quick. He's a big guy, so he can get up and take the ball out of the air. He is a true outside opposite of Devonte Smith receiver. Again, a true Z type receiver. So yeah, I think Mike Williams would be the best case scenario, but he's going to also be demanding a lot of money.
Yeah. For Washington,
and he'll get paid too.
Yeah. For Washington, I think I want Allen Robinson. I think in terms of, if you look at a wide receiver core, he's the kind of wide receiver we don't have. We have McLaurin, he's a medium size, like really fast, like he's bigger than Tyreek Hill, but he's sort of similar. If Curtis Samuel can stay healthy, he's like an all-around guy. He's small. He can play running back. He can play wide receiver. In a perfect world, he's a poor man's Deebo Samuel. So I think a nice big possession guy like Allen Robinson could really do our offense. Another thing is we're going to have to replace Brandon Sheriff. It seems like he's going to leave. So
yeah, I was just about to ask that.
The two guys I think we could sign to replace him are Austin Corbett and Connor Williams. I think those are two guys that could be a good fit. And on the quarterback position, this is tough because if we can't trade for one of the big guys like Wilson or Deshaun Watson, it looks like we're going to sign somebody like Trubisky or Wentz. If we go with Wentz, it needs to be us signing him as a free agency, not trading for him, because if he's going to be on our team, he has to have a cheaper contract. So if we were to go down that road, then I say draft a quarterback with your first round pick and let him learn. Don't push him into it.
For some reason, I'm looking at PFF and they have a Dallas Goddard listed as a free agent. He just got re-signed.
Maybe it just wasn't updated.
Yeah, this has got to be an old. Well, I mean, because I guess it could. November 8th, 2021.
Okay, that's a while ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure when he got signed, but we'll just ignore that one. Yeah, I don't think so. I think the best case scenario for Washington would be to draft a quarterback, just because like you have the youth there and you're going to need a young guy anyway. We talked about wide receiver for a little bit. I saw a couple like smaller name receivers that I heard some like Philadelphia reporters talking about.
Well,
And
there's a lot of receivers that are free agents this
yeah,
class.
but the big names are like the big names are the Devonte Adams of the world and the Juju.
So,
Juju
yeah.
Smith-Schuster is a free
Yeah.
agent.
These are the free agents for wide receivers. Al Robinson, Chris Godwin, Devonte Adams, Will Fuller, Jameson Crowder, T.Y. Hilton, Juju, Emmanuel Sanders, A.J. Green, Sammy Watkins, Mike Williams. Yeah, there's a lot of pretty decent guys here. Even looking down the list, you see
DJ Chark was another name that could be a
Marquise Godwin, Adam Humphries,
he
Mohamed
was an Eagle
Sanu.
for a little bit, Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah, Cam Sims, Cedric Wilson, Jakeem Grant, Rashad Higgins, Zay Jones, Matthew Slater. So there's a lot of pretty good guys out here.
But yeah, I don't think they need the like biggest of names. Because I think they will probably still try to draft a receiver because they've been doing that for 2 years in the first round now.
And it's only worked once.
Well, okay, that's if you're a GM and you're drafting at a 50% success rate, you are legendary. Like there is no, it's not like
The only
you're trying to guess.
The only wide receiver you've drafted though. You've drafted some busts outside the first round when you've missed on DK Metcalf.
Okay, that's JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So
and don't try and tell me about system and the kind of wide receiver you needed.
I'm not because DK Metcalf. You put DK Metcalf in any offensive system, I think he's going to
do good.
Be a star. No, but what I'm saying is still that's 33% on 3 wide receivers. JJ Arcega-Whiteside was a reach by far. So yeah, that was just a terrible pick, but still, like you're trying to base a player off of the school they play and who they play against, and then try to compare how that'll work in the NFL. Like I forget. So I'm trying to look up real quick. Jerry Rice didn't go to a huge. He went to Mississippi Valley State University.
Yeah, no, he's one of those peoples who are gamers and like he had the intangibles that a draft combine or a scouting report couldn't really show. So but that's a 1 in a million.
But what I'm saying is like kind of you're taking players who go to these big team or could potentially be going to these big schools and could suck in the NFL, and then you have players who go to small schools and are good in the NFL. So like it's a guess, and that's what they're doing. So if you're drafting 50%, then you're legendary. If you're drafting even 35%, that's still really good. I don't think the Eagles the Eagles are good on the offensive line. They'll probably draft another offensive lineman this season because they love bringing up offensive line talent. Going to the defense, they need an edge rusher, a corner, a safety.
You need a lot. You need a defense, Tristan.
I think so here's what I'd like to see them sign. Definitely a safety, because they have been hitting jackpots on safety. Rodney McLeod and Malcolm Jenkins, both second contract guys that they brought over, both huge successes. So I'd like to see them at least sign one safety, especially with, I'm going to look up the free agent safeties right now. I know Jesse Bates is the top safety, which I don't see them signing, but I would not. Jesse Bates and Marcus Williams are the 2 top safeties. Then you got Tyrann Mathieu, but he's going to be a lot of money.
Devin McCourty, he's expensive.
He's old too. But like Jaron Curse, he's a guy who could get a 1 or 2 year contract. I think Justin Reed was another one that they talked about. If they could get Jesse Bates, I would be so happy. I don't think they will. Because I'm sure Cincinnati would want to try to get him back. It says here that he's projected to get the franchise tag, but yeah, I mean, he is a really good safety. And Marcus Williams is another 2 big, way too big of money. I know that didn't really make sense. Way too much money for the Eagles to sign. So, like, even a smaller second contract guy, I'd be happy with.
Or Tristan, I have a guy you guys could sign, Troy Apke. You know,
Penn
Troy
State.
Apke. Yeah, and he played in Washington. I think he was like the first white. Well, he's officially like listed as a cornerback, even though he's more of a safety and
And
special teams guy.
safety. He played safety in college.
Yeah, he was the first like white corner in over 20 years, I think.
Since 2002.
Like,
First starting white corner in the NFL since 2000.
Since I was born. Let's just give that into context.
So I definitely want to see them sign a safety because I don't think Marcus Epps is bad. I don't think he's great. Kevon Wallace doesn't look like he's the move. And then maybe an edge rusher. I saw Chandler Jones is up, but he's old. Don't really want him in there. Randy Gregory's up, but he's a good edge rusher. He played really well for the Cowboys this year.
I don't think the Eagles are going to try and sign a Dallas player. You might have a pettiness, but
it's the business. So I don't think Cortland. Wait, did Cortland Sutton get re-signed? Because if he's actually a free agent,
I don't think he's a free agent. I thought I saw he was re-signed.
Yeah, because I just saw that. Well, like I said, yeah, he got re-signed.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Because this isn't exactly the most up to date. But I saw one. There was someone sent me a screenshot earlier of a guy from Tennessee. He was one of their edge rushers. Tennessee had 3 edge rushers with over 8 sacks this season. Or
Really?
not 3 edge rushers, 3 players in their front seven with over 8 sacks.
I didn't realize that.
One of 3 Titans with 8.5 or more sacks in 2021. Harold Landry. Edge rusher, he'd be a second contract guy. That could be a big sign. So an edge rusher or a safety, I think, in free agency, because they do have some money to screw around with. So what about Washington's defense? Any big
we just picked up Montez Sweat's 5th-year option, so that's, I think, the only really big thing. And going back to the offense real quick, it looks like we're meeting with Terry McLaurin's agent to try, because he's going to be reaching the end of his rookie deal, so it looks like we're going to give him an extension. And the same thing, we need to give a new contract to JD McKissick. But on the defensive side of the ball, the only moves I want to see them do is in the draft, because I think we should be trying to go younger. The big thing I think we need is linebackers, because the rest of the defense on paper should be playing a lot better. The secondary, we have good depth. They just need to be playing a lot better. And I think that hinges on the defensive line playing a lot better than they did at the beginning of last season. So I'm not too worried about the defense. I think Ron Rivera and who's our coordinator? Jack Del Rio will work it out. So I just want to see maybe sign a linebacker and then draft one, but I just want to see more linebackers. The rest, I think we're good.
Other than that, that's about it for free agency in the NFL. There's not much going on. Combine workouts start tonight, so maybe have a little bit to talk about then.
Even then, that's not too much.
Yeah, it's not that much. But free agency starts on the 16th, so 2 weeks from now. And that'll bring a lot to talk about. So with that, I think that's it there. Do you want to go over and talk a little bit about the NHL?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Caps. I think we're at a real turning point in the team. Anthony Mantha is supposed to come back. I think it's tonight against the Hurricanes. And once he comes back, we don't have any more excuses. We really don't. And I think we've reached a point where the Peter Laviolette thing, it isn't working out. the players look uninterested. Like, have you ever watched a team and you can see that the players are kind of losing faith in the system and they just seem I mean, I've seen that after the Maple Leafs game, you saw Ovi completely smash his stick on the bench.
I wonder if this was something that I heard from another reporter, and he was saying he wonders if the whole Russia Ukraine thing is like affecting Ovi, because I mean
I don't know, but
he said he looked disinterested in the game, like when they were playing the Flyers.
He seemed disinterested, and that could be down to the coach because the system it isn't working anymore. Our defense it's streaky. I mean, it's not that great. Our goaltending is terrible. Our offense, it plays good at times, but the Leafs game, I'd say our power play actually played pretty good. We got some really good looks, but it's still nowhere near good enough. So if it doesn't work out once Mantha comes back, I think it's over. We should get rid of Laviolette, look for new coaching, and in a worst case scenario, try and start a rebuild in the offseason, because we don't have a first round pick this year. I don't know about next year, but this team could be in some serious trouble. And with how the Blue Jackets are playing, being propelled by Patrick Laine's amazing play.
Did you see the toe drag he had yesterday?
Oh my God. The Caps ain't making the playoffs. I'm
calling it now. Nasty.
The Caps ain't making the playoffs.
They're 8 points behind.
They're motivated. They're playing up. We're playing down. We're falling. They are rising. So we're not making the playoffs this season, and that's a very bad spot. And I just think Laviolette will be let go.
You know, it's crazy. So if Columbus were to take, you guys have, like I said, 8 points on the Blue Jackets. You know what those 8 points are from? Overtime losses. So had you guys not been able to take it into overtime those 8 times, or the Blue Jackets, like that's the slightest difference, which I think is insane. Like they could be right on your tail right now. I mean, they still kind of are. They're not that far back.
They still are, and they're going to pass us. But it seems so crazy because a few months ago, most websites and pages were ranking the Caps and sometimes in the top 5 of the power rankings. Now we're going to be falling out of it and out of the playoffs. It's just things have taken a nosedive very quick. And this has happened even before the Russia thing. Ovi has seemed like I think we're becoming very predictable. So I think there's a lot of more things wrong.
Your power play, one of the most electric power plays in recent memory, is in the bottom half of the league right now. I want to say it's
we're 16%. I saw the stat last night. We're 16% on the power play. I mean, it played actually pretty good against the Maple Leafs, but still wasn't great. Our penalty kill stinks. I mean, Wilson did have a shorthanded goal, which was nice, but yeah, we're in a bad spot, and I don't think we're gonna be able to recover from it this season.
Washington Capitals 27th in the league at 16.4% on the power play.
Yeah, and the thing about, like I said, we don't have any more excuses. That all ends tonight when Anthony Mantha comes back, when everybody's saying power play isn't good because Oshie and Mantha are out, yada, yada, yada. Yeah.
That's not bad against the Maple Leafs to perform well on the power play because they are 6th on the penalty kill.
Yeah, it's not bad, but we almost made a spirited comeback, but in the last 5 minutes, they just began to outplay us, and it became out of reach.
Yeah, that's Flyers are still struggling. I mean, nothing really different. Yeah, nothing really different on this end.
I saw a video titled on YouTube. It's always SHITTY in Philadelphia instead of sunny. That word.
I just need to. Actually, I obviously want to see a cup win, but because I've already technically seen a World Series win. But
I mean, yeah, in 2008.
But yeah, it's not something I was old enough to comprehend yet. So I need to see a cup win and a World Series win in my lifetime. Because I already got the Super Bowl.
I've seen both. I haven't seen a Super Bowl, though, and I probably won't.
Not as long as Dan Snyder's the owner. That's
a whole nother thing. I could, not him.
The Flyers had an owner. So the Flyers had an owner, and his name was Ed Snyder. And anytime I would be listening to like this podcast, they'd say Ed Snyder, and I would just like think of Dan Snyder, and I'm like, wait a second, no, that doesn't match.
Owners with the last name Snyder track record. That's
Ed Snyder's was a good owner, not a bad one.
Was he?
Yeah, that's the difference there. He was a good owner.
That's bad.
So when the NHL didn't have a cap, so agents will steer their players in a certain direction on where to play, and the number, so the top spot that they would steer their players to go play at was Toronto, because obviously hockey is such a big market in Toronto. And then the Philadelphia was number 3 on the list, I believe, for where agents would steer their players to, because Philadelphia is such a well-run organization, and like the way they treat their play, not the way that
it's well run sometimes, Tristan.
I mean, in general, not just the way they play, in general.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. The way they treat the players, the way they treat the players' families, something that they talk about all the time is, so when you get your first jersey, when you're playing in the league, like you get that first jersey with your last name on it, the players get to keep that for free. Usually you have to pay for that. Like me or you go out to buy a jersey, but the Flyers just give it to them because it's their first NHL game. Like the way that they treat the players and their families, it's one of the better organizations in the league. So in general, that's why they steer their players towards Philadelphia, because hockey's still a big market there. They treat their players well, and like just in general, that's why it's one of the better ones. Which Ed Snyder's been the owner since, I want to say like the 60s or 70s. So he was there for a while. He just passed in 2016. So he was an owner for a while. So looking at the playoff picture, do you see any like surprises right now? Aside from the fact that Pittsburgh's second in the Metro, nothing is surprising me, because I didn't even think Pittsburgh would make the playoffs.
Yeah, well, the fact that the Flames, you can argue, are a top 5 team in the NHL, that surprised me.
They're 9-1 in their last 10.
Yeah, that's insane. The fact that the Blue Jackets are going to make it.
Kirill Kaprizov has 64 points in 50 games.
He's insane.
That
guy's insane. But
he's crazy.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest surprise was Calgary. I didn't expect them to be a serious contender. Like they have the potential to make a deep run, which I never saw.
You know what else is crazy? The Western Conference. Okay, so the Eastern Conference, everything's pretty much evened out. The top 3 in the Metro is 79 points, 74, 73. And then in the Atlantic, it's 76, 75, 74. Top 6 teams in the Eastern Conference. The top 6 teams in the Western Conference, Colorado with 84 points. And the next closest is St. Louis and Calgary with 70. That is absurd. And also Vegas hasn't played to the standard that they did last season. They only have 64 points.
Well, and Jack Eichel did just come back. So I think we have to give him a slight off for that. And
at the beginning of the season, they didn't have Jack Eichel.
Well,
so
but
don't get me wrong. Jack Eichel's about.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Tuck was in. When did they trade for Eichel? I'm trying to remember, because they traded Tuck, who's actually an integral part.
I want to say December.
Okay.
They
don't have Fleury either. They lost him.
They still have Robin Lehner.
Yeah, but he's no Marc-Andre Fleury.
That's fair. But I was just about to say Jack Eichel, yes, he's about 5 steps above Alex Tuck, but Alex Tuck is still he's still a good player. So he's
playing good with the Sabres.
Yeah, but when you're on a team like the Sabres, as long as you're an above average player, you'll look good.
Jack Eichel begs to differ.
Jack Eichel was still a good player in Buffalo. His team sucked, but he was still a good player.
The last half, it just didn't look great. But
I think he lost faith in the system.
I mean, to be fair, you would too. But I want to ask you something. Yeah. Did you hear about Rasmus Ristolainen's failed contract extension
with the Flyers?
Yes,
I did not.
Well, apparently he turned down a 6-year, $6.3 million extension, which would have been extremely stupid for you guys to do. So what do you think about that? And it looks like he's going to be traded.
Well, so hang on. I want to see if I can find it. Let's see. The Flyers. Everything's on the table. Okay, so I can't see anything where they said that he tried to sign.
I'm seeing that Philly offered him a 6-year, $6.3 million extension, and he turned it down. This is on a Philly sports network.
All right, I just want to look it up real quick so I can see what.
Either way, I think it's stupid to offer him that much money because I don't think he's that good of a player.
I think he's a good player.
Yeah, he's not terrible. He's not great, but he's not worth $6.3 million a year.
6.3. What's Seth Jones making? Because that was the one guy that they were looking at. Seth Jones, 8 years, $76 million, which is about $9 million a year. Right, I'd say Risto's around $6 million.
No, he isn't, Tristan.
Yeah.
Stop.
Okay, well, let's see.
I saying the article I'm looking at.
NHL players. I'm gonna look up. Let's see. 2021 defensive cap hits. Erik Karlsson, number 1, 11.5. Let's see. Let's look at the players around. So what do you want to say? Between 6 and 7 mil, we'll look at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here are the names that are between 6 and 7 mil. So going from highest to lowest, Brent Seabrook at 6.875, Ryan McDonough at 6.750, along with Ivan Provorov and Mark Giordano. Justin Falk, 6.5. Torrey Krug, one of the better defensemen in the league, 6.5. Cam Fowler, 6.5. Jeff Petrie, 6.25. Ryan Ellis, 6.25. Joshua Morrissey, 6.25. And at 6 flat, you got Johnny Boychuk, Rasmus Dahlin, Eric Johnson, Tyler Myers, Matt Dumba, and Jonas Brodin. I would say that Rasmus Ristolainen is better than over half of these players.
You can't be serious, right?
Okay.
There's no way he's better than those guys.
I would say he's better than Jonas Brodin. Maybe not. I think he plays a different style of a game than Matthew Dumba. So, maybe not.
Style being crap.
But I mean, I don't know that much about Tyler Myers, but based on what I've seen, the way Rasmus Ristolainen play, I would say he's up there with, dude, he could easily be put on the first line with Ivan Provorov, no doubt.
That's because your defense is terrible.
Even with Ryan Ellis healthy, I would say he's eligible to be put
even
on.
With him healthy. Dahlin or Ristolainen, I don't think he's worth 6 years, $6 million a year. I just cannot.
I think he's because he brings that that aggressiveness to the game, and it gives the team a
Ryan Reeves doesn't mean he's worth $6 million.
That's because Ryan Reeves doesn't score points. Rasmus
Ristolainen.
Because Ristolainen's a defenseman. The point of his game is to not let the other team score, which is what he does. So I think he's worth $6 million for what he does, which is lay the body and not let the other team score, which I think he does an incredible job at.
I do not agree. I just do not think he's worth it. And I think $6 million for a player like that would just be a mistake.
Let's see. Who are the people getting paid above that? Chris Letang's making 7.25. So, okay, I think Shea Weber's probably the closest player that I've seen, closest defenseman that I've seen to his type of play. And he's making 7.857.
Shea Weber is pretty much retired. And Shea Weber, even was playing, was so much better than Risto.
No, but I'm saying like that's probably the closest I've seen to him.
In terms of play style, but just the $6 million a year, the $6 million a year, he turned down. He turned down 6 years, $6 million.
I also think that's because he doesn't want to be, he wants to win. He was on the Bruin or the Sabres for 5-6 years, and he wasn't doing anything. He came to Philadelphia thinking that he could win, like thinking that they'd be good this season, that they would win. Granted, they didn't expect him, and he's not asking that much more than he's already making. He's making his cap hit right now is 5.4 mil.
Yeah, it's 5.4.
So, I mean, that's not that much more. If you think about it, his cap hit right now is 5.4, and he's only asking to go up 600,000.
I just don't think he's worth that to begin with. At most, I would offer him 4.
He's playing better defense than most of the players on the Flyers right now. I'd say he's playing better defense than Ivan Provorov.
Your defense is just bad to begin with, which could be down to coaching. It could be down to the guy you're paired with. There's a lot of different factors in it. It could be if your offense is turning the puck over.
Where would you rank Charlie McAvoy in like league defensemen?
Like say 1 through 30?
Like no, not like that. Like, okay, so say like you got like elite tier and then like number 1, like elite, I'm talking Victor Hedman, Seth Jones, Roman Josi. Like I'm putting those, Alex Pietrangelo, those type defensemen. Then the next tier would be everyone like John Carlson, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Miro Heiskanen, Cale Makar. I don't think Cale Makar is elite yet.
He's going to be, but he's not.
Yeah. Quinn Hughes. I'd even say Chris Letang. Like, I'd say, would you?
Chris Letang is still up there considering how much.
I'd say Charlie McAvoy is borderline elite. I wouldn't say he is elite. I'd say he's borderline elite. Charlie McAvoy.
I'd put him around there, and
Charlie McAvoy's cap hit right now is 4.9 mil. So let's
and you see the Bruins are succeeding with that.
What else? Yeah, but what I'm saying is Charlie McAvoy deserves way more money. Like, so you're saying that, like, I think Charlie McAvoy could be making upwards of 8-9 million a year. And
I don't know about that because defensemen aren't really paid that much to begin with. If you look at the guys who are
Erik Karlsson's 11.5, Drew Doughty 11, Roman Josi 9, PK Subban 9, Dougie Hamilton 9, Cale Makar 9.
The only ones that 8.8. Like the ones that are paid that much, there's only a few that the teams like don't regret. Dougie Hamilton and Cale Makar are the only ones that the teams don't regret signing for that much because Subban, he's not worth it anymore. Carlson's not worth it anymore. Doughty's not worth it anymore. A lot of those guys aren't worth it anymore.
You know, I also think that now I'm not trying to like disregard your argument or anything, but if you look at like Rasmus Ristolainen plays a way different game than most of these defensemen now. He is a more physical defenseman whose main purpose of the game is to not let the other team score.
That's the goal of a defenseman, though.
But the defenseman now, like the defenseman that you're thinking about, like in general, all are goal scorers now. Cale Makar is one of the top point scorers in the league, and he's a defenseman. Yeah.
He's worth over 9. Rasmus Ristolainen, like
I'm not saying Rasmus Ristolainen.
Purely defensive. he's a purely defensive defenseman. That would be his archetype if you want to go
and
there.
he does his job well. So I would say he's worth
I just
6.
like, yes, he wants to go to a winning team, but I don't think a winning team would have $6 million to give to him. If he wants to be on a winning team, he'd have to be around 4 or 5, I think, because I mean, you just have to have depth in the defensive pairing, and I just don't think that shelling out $6 million for him would be worth it if you want to be a true winning team.
Okay. I feel like Calgary, they don't have that many big. This is also like trying to just think off the top of my head. Calgary, I think, could afford him. Los Angeles, who's the second team in the Pacific, I think could afford $6 million a year.
With Calgary, I think they're going to try and trade for Giordano again, who's a better player and already versed in their system.
Vegas definitely could not afford him. Edmonton, probably not. Colorado, no. St. Louis, I feel like could, because they're maybe not with Torrey Krug, actually. Minnesota definitely could. Nashville probably could. Let's see. Carolina, they don't spend that much money on defense. Pittsburgh just blows my mind. I don't know how they're doing what they're doing.
I can't see Pittsburgh making a trade.
I'm not like, this is just, I'm looking at top teams who I think I'd say he could go to a Western winning team, because to win in the West is way easier than to win in the East. I think he could go to the team in the West, a team in the Western Conference, and get paid that much money, and they'd be fine with it. Like Dallas. Dallas is kind of on that verge right now. They're tied for the second.
Even if they get him, I don't think they'll be. Even if they get him, I don't think they'll be good enough.
I'm not suggesting trades. I'm just saying, like, because you're saying he doesn't deserve $6 million, and you're saying a winning team wouldn't be able to afford that. And I'm just saying, like,
I don't think he deserves 6. If he gets 6, I think it'll be from a team who has a lot of money and not a lot of very good depth, is what I'm saying. And if you're looking at the trade that you got him from, Hag, a first-round pick, which is the 14th, and a second-round pick in 2023.
It was the 13th in last season's draft, where like everyone was a guess, because there was no film or anything about the players.
But that's still a possibly first-round talent. I don't think that trade was worth it, because and ultimately you're talking about trading a year later. So I'd rather. That's
because they thought they were going to be
first and second.
They thought they were going to be winning, because if you think about what you're trying to accomplish, like if they knew that this season that they would be where they were, I don't think they're making that trade, because that's obviously going to be a high second round pick now. Like Robert Haig was a decent third line defenseman. He wasn't great, but
depth at best.
The bottom line is they thought they were going to be winning, and that's why they made the trade. He wants to go to a winning team, so I think that's why he turned down the money. I don't think he turned down the money because he wants more money. I think he turned it down because he wants to go to a winning team. So, like, obviously, I'm not here to say whether he's going to get more money or not, but I think it was strictly because he wants to go to a winning team, and he knows that Philadelphia is not there right now. So I think that's why they turned him down. That's purely why I think it happened. I don't think it's because he thinks he deserves more money. It's just he doesn't want to be in Philly right now. He wants to win. And Philadelphia is not in a position to do that when they are 53 games into the season and have 16 wins.
Yeah, in my opinion, I don't think he's worth that much. He's 27, and that for defensemen, I think that in a few years after is the true peak. I think the maximum peak we've seen is around your early 30s for a defenseman.
I'd say $6 million is a good price.
I'd say 5.
That's less than he's making right now.
That's less than he's making right now. I don't think he's shown enough to just really deserve a true pay grade. Yes, you could look at teams he played with, but in my opinion, he's really showed enough to get that pay raise and to have that money continue for 6 years.
I also think that this is where, like, obviously you're not as entrenched in Philadelphia news as I am, because from my standard, like, he's played what he's been asked to do and more than that. Like, he's laying 4, 5, 6 hits a night and he's laying the body, keeping the puck out of the net, which is what he was asked to do. So like, this is where you see our difference in views, because you're obviously not paying attention to the Flyers as much as I'm not paying attention to the Caps and all that. So while like, just for an example, say what's his name? Dmitry Orlov.
Orlov, he's not good defensively. Well, straight up.
Just this is just for an example, because that was the first defenseman that came to my mind that's not named John Carlson. So say he was offered a contract at $4 million, and say you thought he deserved it, but I didn't think he did because he plays a different type of game. That's not like, you see Cale Makar on the highlight reel every night because he produces a good game. He scores points. He looks good. Like, he makes the game look pretty. That's not what Ristolainen's about. Ristolainen's about going back to the Broad Street Bully type days where he just lays the body.
Those true days like that aren't. I mean,
what I'm saying is
he's still physical, but
he's not a highlight reel player, and that's why you don't think.
I'm not expecting him to be. I'm expecting him to be solid defensively, and if you're a winning team, if you're a winning team, you're going to be banking on the fact that if we put him with another defenseman, he's going to play better. And I'm not sure I'd be willing to bank on that for $6 million for a player who hasn't really shown that in the last however many years. And you have to look at it, could he pair well with the defenseman? And yeah, like, the Flyers situation may be bad, but you still have to take into account if you're a team looking to give him a new contract.
That's
because if even can be 100-point scorer and he's playing on the Buffalo Sabres, you still can't. It's still going to be hard to really offer him a lot of money.
I want to bring up. I wish they had separate, kind of separate stat lines, like more accessible stat lines, because obviously, teams
it's sometimes hard to that's like,
yeah, because like, they're showing me his goals and his goals and stuff, which I'm like, it is what it is. Like, I don't really care about that, but I want to see like his defensive stuff, because like the first third of the season, Ivan Provorov hadn't given up a 5v5 goal, or wasn't on the ice for a 5v5 goal, which like, that's a stat I want to see, which I'm not going to get on Ristolainen. But dude, like, he has 165 hits this season. I'm going to bring up
all fine and dandy, but that doesn't always transfer into solid defense, like solid defensively. I mean, Wilson used to hit a lot of people, but now he's playing a lot better when he's toned back the hits. He hits when it's needed. Well, sometimes he still stretches it, but
he's 10th in the league in hits. But okay, also Tom Wilson was an offensive player. He's meant to score goals, not like
still. But in Tom Wilson, he isn't really the best of scorers. He's more of a defensive forward than anything. He's like a bigger, nastier Patrice Bergeron without the passing ability.
165 hits with only 22 penalty minutes, which is the second lowest in the top 10. The only one with less penalty minutes is Cal Clutterbuck, and he has 199 hits.
Why do I keep thinking that's a goalie? I'm thinking of Connor Hellbuck, I think.
Probably. But I just think that, like, first off, I think the reason that you don't think he's worth it is because of the fact that you don't see him every day or don't hear about it every day. And that's why I don't think you think he's worth it. Whereas I'm seeing all that.
Yeah, but I'm looking at these, but just I'm looking at multiple Philadelphia articles, and they're echoing the same thing, that he wasn't worth it and it was a bad trade idea. I mean,
again, that's because they're not winning.
Multiple. Yeah, but you have to take that into account. It's all fine and dandy if you play well, but if you ain't winning, it doesn't mean anything.
Okay, so the reason they made the trade was because they thought they would be winning this season. Dude, on paper, their team looked great. Going into the season when everyone and their brother got injured, you obviously have a tough time winning. So now hindsight is 2020. you can look at the trade now and say, oh, yeah, that was a terrible trade, because you see now that your team isn't performing well and having him on the team isn't really helping. Whereas if the team was winning and having him on the team actually did help and did account, like having him on the team and then having like some scrub that should be playing in the AHL right now really wouldn't make a difference right now because they're not winning. That's why it looks like a bad trade. Whereas if they were winning and you take out Ristolainen and you put in a seventh defenseman in his spot, it's going to look terrible because they're supposed to be a winning team. So you have to look at like the surroundings along with, so yeah, it looks like a terrible trade because no matter who you plug into where he is right now, it really wouldn't matter because they're going to lose anyway. That's like, I just think we're coming from two different angles.
Yeah.
So that's what I think the difference is there. Oh, you just sent me a link to the, I didn't see that. I don't think it was a bad trade. I'd say had the team panned out the way it should have this season, that's a good trade. And they are, he's a difference maker, but since they're not winning, I think that's the reason he turned down the money. And that's the reason that he looks like a bad trade. And that's where I'll leave it, because I think overall it was a good trade had the team panned out like they should have.
Even if I think the team panned out, I still think you need a lot of younger guys because your top goal scorer on the team he's in his early 30s and he hasn't scored.
Oh, Cam Atkinson.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's holes in your team. And if you look at last year, your defense played pretty bad. I mean, yeah, even with the way like Carter Hart was he was stop and go at times during last season. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I still,
you're right.
I still want to made the trade because there was better defenseman. I mean, Seth Jones would have been perfect, but that didn't pan out. But I still would have taken the first.
And that's another thing. Like,
I think the younger that needs to get younger.
Seth Jones would have looked like a terrible signing right now too, because I'm sure
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think he would look like as bad. I think he's more solid defensively. I think he would limit the
who's
bad
chances. Like a bad trade right now.
Mantha. Wait, let me list. Let me list. Mantha. He was pretty bad.
No, I mean, who's looking like a bad trade on the Flyers right now? Ryan Ellis. I'll tell you what.
No, that was.
I'll tell you what. Ristolainen may look like a bad trade, but he's already done far more than Ryan Ellis did. So
I mean, at least
he's been available, which is one step more than that, which is way better than Ryan Ellis has done. So that's where I'll leave that argument on Ellis or Ristolainen.
Hasn't Ryan Ellis played less than 10 games this year? Correct me if I'm wrong.
4 games.
4? Isn't that the number he was?
And 2 of them he wears. Now, what number does he wear?
I thought 6 or 4.
He's not. No, he wears 94 now. He wears 94 now as a Flyer. I want to say he wore 4 in Nashville.
I think, he did wear 4.
And
4
I don't
even. He's wearing 94 in the 4.
Yeah, and actually, 2 of them, I don't even think were full games. So really, only 2 full games. But that's where I'll leave that Ristolainen argument. And
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we both have points that people would find good and genuine. So at least we have baseball to look forward to. Oh, wait.
I don't know. I don't know if I mentioned this last week or not, but I'll mention it again just in case. If they don't have a season, like if they don't figure out the agreement by March 30th, they're going to cancel the season.
So that's them. A lot of the fans, they recently gained with the whole Ohtani stuff, and it looks like they're starting to get the marketing department a lot better, because I think that's been one of the biggest downs for the MLB is their inability to make true superstars. And it looked like they did it with Shohei Ohtani. So I think this would be a big step back for the league. I think this would be extremely detrimental to them. In the same way that the lockout in 90, they had the whole steroid thing to pull them out of the mud. it's going to be harder this generation to pull the MLB out of the mud.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I don't see the issue with what the CBA is having an issue with. I think that made zero sense. But yeah, I mean, they paused the CBA after marathon day of talks. So, apparently this says, this is from ESPN. This was written 2 days ago. MLB and players paused the CBA negotiations after marathon day of talks, hope to finalize the deal before the 5 p.m. Eastern Tuesday deadline.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Well, no, because that was March 1st.
Yeah.
That was, wait. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I guess that was after. I don't know. We'll find out more as it goes along. But yeah, this is ridiculous. It's so weird, because I've always heard about the lockouts and everything, and now it's like living through one is so much different.
We lived through a hockey one. It was half one in 2013, I believe.
I wasn't really watching hockey at that point, so I knew I would root for the Flyers and stuff, but I wasn't as invested as I am now. So I wasn't really comprehending any of that.
Yeah, we haven't lived through a baseball lockout that could directly affect the season. I think.
Wasn't there one in 2004 too?
There might have been for hockey or MLB, because I know there was a hockey one in the early 2000s that canceled the season, I think.
Then it must have been NHL that I'm thinking of.
I know there was a NHL lockout around that time.
So the last MLB strike was 94-95.
Yeah, and that one canceled the season.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was thinking of NHL. So lockout of 2012. Yeah, NHL lockout of 2004. There was a lockout in 94-95 with the with hockey too. Okay. But is that all you got?
Yeah, that's all I got. I mean, Caps, we had a good run. We got one out of it, but it's coming to an end.
With that, we are going to end it off there. And this was a fun episode.
This was fun.
This was a good one, especially with such a slow time right now with no baseball, because they'd be in spring training right now. No baseball. Neither of our hockey teams are doing too hot. NFL's kind of in a weird spot right now. So, this was a fun episode to go over, and we're gonna end it off here. You guys can follow our Instagram and DM us comments and questions at BLinTheDC. You can email us questions and comments at BLinTheDC@gmail.com. You can rate us on Apple and Spotify. And with that, we're going to end it off there. So we see you guys next week.
See you later.